order at 9:46 a.m. And the first thing is the territorial land acknowledgement. We apologize for the delays. We just had a little technical trouble with our first time meeting in this forum. Before our meeting gets underway, I would like to formally recognize the traditional keepers of this land and specifically our neighbors of the Alderville First Nation with a formal territorial acknowledgement. We respectfully acknowledge that the Township of Alnwick-Haldeman is located on the Mississauga Anishinaabe territory and is the traditional territory of the Mississauga Anishinaabe. The Township of Alnwick-Haldeman respectfully acknowledges that the Mississauga Nation are the collective stewards and caretakers of these lands and waters in perpetuity, and that they continue to maintain this responsibility to ensure our health and integrity for generations to come. Are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest or general nature thereof? Seeing none. Item 4 is approval of the agenda as circulated. Be it resolved that the agenda for the strategic planning session of Thursday, September 16th, 2021 be approved as circulated. We can do this by show of hands. If I have a mover, please. For Philip, all in favor? Do is first review of why a strategic plan is important. Troy's going to take over at this point, and then we'll have our acting clerk, Pat Kemp, walk us through some of the strategic planning part of that session.
Staff and public, thanks everyone for attending our strategic plan review. Although we're a few months past the halfway point of our council term, I still thought it was appropriate to bring our strategic plan to the table for a review. I also wanted an opportunity to recognize the staff that staff have been able to accomplish since the strategic plan was approved in September 19th, 2019, and even during the COVID-19 times. With this review, we can see where we are, where we should be, and where we are going. If there's any significant changes, council can ask the public's input prior to passing the final document. With the municipal election in 2022, a strategic planning session will occur in the spring of 2023, and this will also can be where more modifications or a total new plan can take place. With funding opportunities available, staff need to know the direction so they can successfully submit applications. With all that being said, I am now going to pass it over to Pat as she will guide us through our strategic plan review.
I just need Yolanda to give me sharing rights, please. Is it on your screen, Yolanda?
Now, Pat?
Nope. Okay. We even did a dry run yesterday to. Nope.
Now.
You got it? Okay, great. Thank you. So good morning, everyone, and thank you for this opportunity. Oops. Okay, so as council is aware, The vision statement for the township is unified from lake to lake. Our community is rooted in rural traditions and lifestyle. We enjoy fulfilling life here in all four seasons. We learn from nature, celebrate diversity, and embrace progress as an accessible, inclusive community. Your mission statement is Alwick Haldeman is committed to providing a comprehensive range of efficient and effective municipal services through the collaboration, leadership, resource management, and fiscal accountability. So why do we have a strategic plan? It's a roadmap of where we want to go. It forces us to look into the future, to be proactive. It provides a better awareness of needs or services and facilities. It builds on consensus to define overall mission of the organization and focus on the objective, and provides a sense of direction, continuity, required resources, and effective leadership. So in order for us to get from point A to B, if we have a strategic plan, it's pretty direct route. Without one, we kind of have a scenic route or go off-roading. So your plan that was approved in September of 2019 listed 4 strategies of priority. So 1 was the Parks and Master Plan, 2 was the Public Works Centralized Facility, 3 was staffing levels, and 4 was fiscal sustainability. So we're further going to look at each one of those objectives and have staff give us an update on where we are and what we have accomplished. So right now I'm going to turn it over to both Jen Steen and Troy to discuss the Parks Master Plan. And we'll start with Jen.
I believe I was going to speak to 1.4 determination of programs at these facilities.
Okay. So Troy, the decision and scope of the libraries and community centers. Council needs, the master plan was carried out, and I believe there was another plan that was subsequent to that. Can you update us on that then?
As everyone, as council knows, that Parks Master Plan was approved. So with that being said, staff has really come to hit a wall when it comes to funding opportunities and stuff. And we'll get into it a little bit later on, the funding opportunities and grants that come across my desk, and that's on a weekly basis. And in order not to miss any, staff really need to know where we are going with some of the, like 1.1 and 1.2 when it comes to community centers and arena and stuff. You know, and I think council is going to be, you know, pleased at the end of the day with everything else in the strategic plan that staff has done and accomplished, but you know, we're really stuck on the very first one, and the Parks Master Plan and the recommendations that, you know, were provided through groups and committees. We just need to know where we're going, and you know, do we apply to these grants? And you know, for this staff to be successful in grants, again, we need a decision on, you know, the big one: facilities, community centers, arena, and stuff like that. So I'll open it up for discussion. Right now, staff is at a standstill on this one, and this is the big one. So comments?
That this one fell behind more so than any was when COVID hit at the end of 2019, and as of March 2020, everything got shut down. The loss of volunteers. And so the library, because it's on and provide a lot of programs. And I think they did a really good job through COVID, and learned some lessons as well. I think they learned that they had a lot of programs they could actually move forward, whether it's COVID or whether it's not. So I think that they did a pretty good job. Community centers have been up in the air. all through this time. And it's going to be pretty hard now to compare community centers and even parks, because at the beginning, we shut down all the parks. The kids couldn't even use the outdoor equipment or the baseball diamonds, nothing. So that's gone on now for nearly 2 years, and people have missed out and missed those services. When things get up and running again, and I think it's going to be a while before we go back to what was normal, if we ever get back to a normal. After listening to Dr. Bocking yesterday at county, she's thinking that it's going to go on quite some time. Masking, social distancing, and all the COVID protocols, because she thinks it's going to be here for a while. So that again is going to affect all the municipalities and what we can offer, not only ours, all of them, and what we can't. So whether it's just small groups or whether it's bigger events or outdoor events, whatever it happens to be. So I think we got a road ahead of us. And I'm even thinking that's probably going to go into the next council, restrictions and having to abide by those restrictions. So to me, that put things a little unfairly onto libraries, community centers, and parks. COVID did not, it was COVID that did it. So how do we come back now is the question. And do we come back slowly? Or what is it? I guess that's part of the decision we're going to have to make, because people haven't been able to get out and do, and people have lost a lot of connection on COVID. I'm not blaming it on any staff or any councils or nothing. It's strictly COVID. Threw a real wrench into, it threw a wrench into even our strat plan. So there's a start.
So I've put up, as part of your strategic plan, some of the initiatives that were to take place. So maybe council would want to have some discussion regarding that. So one of the things was to hold public consultations. And maybe if council feel it's necessary now, maybe that's something we look at for maybe the start of 2022, or just to throw it out there.
So with Pat, so maybe the next step, because like I said, we're at a standstill at 1.1. So maybe going over to the initiatives for next year, it is, getting somehow, some way, and staff will put their heads together to get the public involved and really, have a good review of the facilities and the Rec and Culture Committee as well and stuff. So Sherry?
Thank you. And I'm in agreement with Mayor Latchford in that, COVID really set us back to determining, what in that Parks Master Plan in regards specifically to community centers and libraries to a lesser extent, were we able to effectively provide programming for? Because as everyone knows, over the last year and a half, we've been at a standstill. So I think the Parks Master Plan did allow us several months of leeway for staff to try to get some programming in to determine which one of the community centers were viable to keep open. I think, we all recognize that for the size of our township and the size of our population base, that having 5 community centers, if they're not viable with programming and revenue is a lot for the township. But I also think it's really important right now when we're talking about public consultation and committee work to recognize that if we're going out to the committee and we're asking for public input, that it's incumbent on us to accept that advice and move forward with it. Because I think people get really tired of volunteering and putting in time, effort, giving recommendations, and then it not being acted on. So I would just say, to my fellow council members, that we just need to keep in mind that it may not always be what we want to hear, but I think we need to take that into great consideration when we are making our decisions.
There was a committee a few years ago that did that, provided a Parks Master Plan review. And I think that was just approved and filed, I think. So I think even if that was back on the table and review that, I just think we need to go forward with some of these recommendations. And I do know it's COVID, but we're at a, like I keep saying it, we're at a standstill at 1.1, and we need to go forward with some of these facilities, arena and stuff. So, yeah, I just don't think we can receive and file. I think, a lot of work has been done on evaluating parks, rec, and culture facilities. And I think we need to, take some action.
So is council in agreement to bring back the ad hoc committee's report to take a review of it?
To that effect, Pat?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
To that effect?
Yes, if council wants staff to bring back that report, if you would put it in a motion, then we can prepare that for a future meeting.
Okay, so we should bring that back for review.
Yes.
Have you got a motion there, or do you want me to just ask for a motion to bring the, what was it called? Our park study, our parks group, the local.
You know what? And I'm kind of embarrassed to say this, but it seems like so long ago that, I've lost a lot of that detail, and I think absolutely is the next step to bring that back.
Yeah. We just can't name it right now, Pat.
Okay,
but,
so if we
know
bring
which
back
one- we know
that-
which one it is.
Well, hopefully other staff will know too.
It was
So
Parks and Recreation ad hoc.
Ad hoc,
The
okay.
recommendations from that committee, they need to come back and be reviewed.
Okay.
So
So if you just have a motion to that effect, that staff bring back the Parks and Rec ad hoc recommendations and to be reviewed by council.
it's going to make that motion, or are you wanting to speak?
I'm just, before I make that motion, wanting to speak to that ad hoc committee's recommendations. Council did support some of those ad hoc recommendations. The signage in the community was one. The work on Sandy Bay was another. So there was quite a few, and let's not forget the playground equipment at the Memorial Park. So there's the trails that were there as well. So it's not, I wouldn't say it would be fair to say that council ignored that report. It was received and it was acted on where we could act on things quickly. Also, the boat launch has been improved and upgraded and dredged, and there certainly has been consideration by the CAO for further development along the waterfront there. So, it would be remiss to say that we have ignored that. I'm in favor of reviewing it further. But the reason that it wasn't all accomplished was because some of those political potatoes were difficult to navigate during COVID. We didn't really have a full understanding of how the arena was going to work because it was shelved so quickly into that period. And we were looking at continued costs and so on and so forth. So that's been a hard decision to make. And so it is a good idea to review once again, those recommendations. I'm fine with that. But I just want to say that council has not been static on this. They have moved forward.
But
Thank
I-
you, Counselor Phillip. Go ahead.
just in reply to that, I fully agree, and I think we did move forward with a lot of those easy decisions. But I think we're at the point now, getting towards the end of the last year of our term. There's some tougher decisions that are contained in those reports that we need to have a look at.
Some of those decisions were budget based as well. So move forward, then it's going to take increases in budget. So we had to look at that as well. It's always down to the dollar. So, to get the grant for that playground equipment at Sandy Bay, put us ahead there, because I don't know that we would have pulled 50,000 out of our hats for that. So depending on grant money too, and hopefully that still stays available for a while.
And I agree, Councillor Phillip. Yes, we, the township has done many of the things in the report, and I'm proud of that. But I will support Sherry in saying the big decisions are going to have to be made, and it's some of them are budget items for sure. So it's let's get it back on the table. I'm happy to have it back on the table so staff can work with it and bring it to council. So
on that, I guess my question is, if we move forward on some of the big decisions, do we tie the hands of the council coming forward in the future? That would be the question I would want to leave with council. I have no problem making the big decisions. I just don't want to force the future on the future.
Year of a council's term, it's the sort of thing that with every council that you have to think of. And so it would depend on, once you do the reviews, what the recommendations are coming out of that review. Do you want to take it all on, or do you want to, at the time, do we want to move it forward to a future council? And some of the tough, I don't mean the tough decisions, but financially, it might be appropriate to put something forward for a future council to be able to get grant money. That sort of thing. It might be just simply a timing issue on being able to time it right before, we become lame duck at some point. So it depends on how much work we can get done and the direction through this review that we're going to give staff. So I'd say direction, timing, and grant money or tax.
And I think that's an important note to end on, in that, you know, our CAO started by saying grant applications are passing over his desk, and we don't want to lose a year of applying for funding. So I think that, I mean, if we take it back, it's you know, just back to dollars and cents. If we can apply and we can make some decisions, I think we need to.
Okay, so I'll just say that I think that encompasses 1.1, 1.2, 1.3 for sure. If it's back on the table, I would say let's end it at this, and staff will take the lead and bring stuff to council. So it's a good starting point for staff, and we'll do some work and bring it to council.
So there was I think Councillor Philip was going to make a motion that the Parks and Rec ad hoc recommendations be brought back to council for further review.
Councillor Hogg made the motion and
sorry.
Councillor Philip seconded that motion. So I was just going to call for the vote on that. Oh, okay.
Motion, Pat, thank you.
Motion.
Okay. So the motion is to review the Parks Ad hoc Committee recommendations and then move forward. See by show of hands, carried.
And before we move on to item 1.4, just to make council aware, you did give us permission to apply for an Ontario Trillium Foundation grant regarding the boat launches. So staff are working on that. And then under 1.4, I believe Jen is going to speak to that. Jennifer Steen.
Thank you. So 1.4, the objective was determination of programs at these facilities. The recommendation from the ad hoc committee was to hire a volunteer coordinator / programmer for all facilities. So this recommendation was approved, and the position started in February of 2020. Due to the COVID-19 pandemic, as the mayor has mentioned, community centers have been closed for 12 out of those 19 months. To date, though, I just wanted to go over some of the things that have been accomplished. So one is centralized bookings for community centers, and this directly comes from the Parks Master Plan public survey findings, which says improved booking system and process for the public, and contacting community center board volunteers was perceived to be a challenge. So that's all been taken in-house now and is done through the township. Number 2 is centralized program registration. So same, online program registration and consent forms were created for all programming, and it's all done through the township. Number 3 is centralized cleaning services. So all community centers are now cleaned and maintained by staff. Number 4 is centralized marketing and promotion. So we have one recreation guide that has been put out online, but there's consistent signage and marketing for programs and rentals of all township facilities. Number 5 is instructors teaching at various facilities, not just one. So we're able to offer programs throughout the township. And we have independent operators sign WSIB forms for all program instructors. We have some introduction of new programming. So pickleball, shuffleboards back up, and somatic yoga, which is geared to older adults or those with injury and mobility issues. And there was an online community quilt program that was offered in 2020 as well. And that was both online or in-person workshops were also offered at all the community centers. Number 7 is grant applications. We're just in a better position to apply for grants for programming and recreation across all facilities and for capital improvements and upgrades to all facilities. And in 2020 and 2021, we applied for a Hydro One grant, an Agri Spirit grant, and a Seniors Community grant. And the Seniors Community grant, we haven't heard yet if we've been successful or not, but this project will improve the quality of and access to rural-based leisure pursuits across the township. Number 8 is a committee review structure. So a review of the committee structure was completed, and it led to the creation of the Recreation and Culture Advisory Committee. Number 9 is rental and user groups. And I just wanted to highlight that the way that we're collecting data on the facilities now. So for example, there was a total of 120 hours booked for all community centers from October to December of 2020. So that information can be broken down per facility and per type of rental. So for example, user group, private rental, programming hours. So this data was not captured and reported in this way before. And that's going to help determine the lifespan, I guess, of the facilities or the viability of these facilities, and will help as well with grant applications. Then community partners. So just for an example, we're in discussion with YMCA Northumberland to bring programming to facilities that are underserviced in our township. So I just wanted to highlight some of the things that were completed and kind of fall under objective 1.4. Thank you.
Thanks, Jen. Does council have any questions of Jen regarding those programs?
Questions or comments, council?
You've done an amazing job moving some of those things forward since February 2020. It seems like longer than that, but I think I think we're well on our way, and I've heard good things about having one staff person that's that the public and committees can go to. So thanks for that.
Okay, so if there's nothing further on that, then we'd go to 1.5. And Jennifer Kern, you weren't with us with our meeting yesterday, but have there been any official plan amendments based on decisions made previously?
No, the decision, a lot of the decisions haven't been made, so we haven't updated the official plan. When we have some changes that were required in the official plan due to the decisions of council, we can bring forward an official plan amendment at that time. But to date, there has not been a requirement for an official plan amendment.
Okay, thank you. Okay, before we move forward on the public works, is there any other questions that council may have of staff regarding the Parks and master plan? Okay, if not, we'll go to the public works centralized facility, and I'll ask Brian and Troy if they would address this, please.
Would you like me to start?
Yes, please.
Okay. Good morning, Mayor Latchford and members of council. Just going over the strategic plan there for public works. centralized facility. 2.1, decision on aging facility. This council has seen the plans of us moving forward with updating the current public works garage in Centerton. So we did move forward with engineered drawings for the building to add on bays to the shop out here and office space. There is a committee for the public works. We do need to meet again probably the next couple weeks. So that'll be a status report. And then under the, do you want me to keep going down, Pat, or just end at each 2.1 or?
Maybe if we just want to ask council if there's any questions before you proceed to the next one, Brian, please.
Okay, so then under like 2.1, again, we should get our group together the next few weeks because it was the plan to go out to request for a proposal on a design build for the new public works or renovated public works field in Centerton this fall, so that there would be a build, a start in early spring. Again, this all would come to council after the RFP close, because it would be a budget item for the 2022 budget. Yeah, that's kind of comments on 2.1.
Okay, thanks. Any questions of Brian on that area?
Brian, this will be the first time the committee actually sees your engineered plans. Is that correct?
I believe so, yes.
Okay, thanks.
Is that correct, Troy? I think so. I think.
Yeah, we've had the drawings on the table before, but I don't think the committee has seen the final drawings that you currently have.
And then just to touch on that again, Troy and the committee moved forward with the drawings to be done. But then when that last funding application, Pat, I don't know the name of it, but for the accessibility and all that stuff, council did agree with us to apply for funding. So the plans were modified. So that's why, again, we were kind of holding off on having the committee together until we got these new plans that were just really done. And well, just prior to the last funding date that Pat sent the new drawings and the application in.
That this is another example of a very progressive township and council, and that we're moving forward with one of those tough decisions that we have faced for the last 10 or 15 years. And I think we've been very proactive here, and I'm very proud to support the concept of this new build. So I think we have to keep in mind that we are getting lots done. Thank you.
The plan for the other garage, will that be shown to the committee? The committee members are Councillor Booth and Councillor Hogg. So do you have those as well?
Sorry, the other garage?
Building that will store the trucks, keeping them road ready instantly, for lack of a better term.
Yeah, so the like the new drawings for the Centerton upgrade. Yes.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, so Brian, do you want to continue with 2.2 under the grants or?
Yes. I don't know if I'm missing sometimes the volume. I don't know if there's people. I think I'm just catching a little bit later on. So just let me know if I'm missing something, Pat, there.
Okay, I'm having a hard time hearing as well, so.
Okay. Sorry, 2.2 council. Again, that's objectives is grants, funding, and financial. Investigate funding availability. And again, every week, Troy gets funding opportunities coming through his desk and does send out to all the department heads. So we are constantly looking at opportunities for this project to get funding. And in saying that, that's the one we looked at there almost a couple months ago there now, but is there was some funding for accessibility. So we thought we would apply for that, and that would help with some of the costs for the upgrading to the our lunchroom, our bathrooms, making it more accessible to the public, parking spaces as well. So again, so we did, hopefully we are successful in that, and that will help with some of the financial costs that the township will have to bear for this upgrade. Action and overview, staff committee review. So that's part of that. Staff's various options to be distributed for HAC committee for review. So that was kind of really wasn't discussed with a HAC committee, but council and whole as far as that funding application. Again, having this meeting, hopefully like in the next couple weeks, we'll bring our committee up to speed on the new drawings, and so that we can move ahead with going out for the request for proposal for design build early this fall. Any questions?
And if I could just add one other thing is, we did hear back from the Enabling Accessibility Grant. There was some information that they wanted us to clarify and some additional pictures that has been sent back to them this week, and hopefully we hear back from them positively, but. Okay, do you want to go with 2.3, Brian?
Yep, sorry. Yep, okay.
Just
Pat,
a
Sorry.
quick question, Pat, to Brian. Brian, do we have an estimate then? Has that number changed in the last year or so? What are we looking at an approximate cost for the new building?
I believe, and Troy can jump in anytime, but I believe the original estimate was around the 2.1 million. And then, or Pat too, I know Pat had the new numbers for the grant. It did go up, but then those costs were going to be cover a lot of it with the accessibility as far as the renovations to the front part and the offices and the bathrooms. And that, Pat, I don't have those numbers in front of me. Sorry, Councillor Booth.
Just give me 1 second here.
And while you're looking that up, Pat, and maybe Troy can answer this, do we know what we think the approximate cost of an RFP will be for the design and build and that? I have no idea. Are we talking, $50,000-$60,000, or is that something that's not quite?
No,
as much?
I don't believe it'll be anything near that price. We've been doing so much work since 2015. A lot of the costs are already done, right? So really, it's putting it out to RFP through a company, and we're looking at, I would guess, $10,000-$15,000 to have it all. We have done we've invested money over the years, and that's why we've been putting it away every year since 2015, 16, something like that. So getting it out there will be very minimal compared to what the project is. So
Yeah, we've accomplished some of those steps.
Yeah.
As we went along. So I guess now what we would face is more changes in increased actual costs of the build. Would you agree, Troy?
yes, I do agree.
So the preliminary estimate was around $2.9 million, and about almost 500,000 of that would be accessible opportunity. So we would have to pay 10% of the 500,000 if we were approved.
Okay, I think we're finished with that one, Pat. So we don't need a motion for it because we'll be waiting for a report to come back from the committee, correct?
Yes, correct.
Okay, 2.3, is that?
Yes, please.
Location options under objectives, initiatives next year, decision on centralized location of land. That had already been decided by council last year, I believe. Recommendation on various locations options. Again, this has been completed. And then I believe the last one, status, that was already brought back to council, correct, Troy? Can people hear me?
I can hear you, but I don't know about Troy.
I have it. You're correct. You can go on to the next one too. And in summary, like everything's been done in Public Works. We're right at the very last stage, which is the RFP. But you can go to 2.4, Brian. You know, it's all the health and safety improvement go ahead.
Yep. Sorry, I'm just not hearing everyone there. Like sorry for the gap. So 2.4, again, the health and safety improvements, initiatives next year, improve the health and safety with the building. Again, I think that's being addressed by this new building, you know, a larger lunchroom, larger offices for us to work at our desk, you know, more efficiently. The washrooms, you know, the parking and all that as well. Action overview, short-term and health and time and cost commitment. The one thing I will, health and safety. The other thing too is, I don't think it really falls under health and safety, but is having our vehicles, the public works vehicles, you know, inside a building is very important instead of, you know, being outside and stuff. You know, we've ran into a few issues where, you know, vehicles being parked outside, you know, animals bird nesting. It's nice to have the vehicles inside. So this will help down the road with our fleet being inside the building and not exposed to weather and wildlife and stuff like that as well. So status recommendation as to completing any immediate health and safety concerns and costs. So I think I've kind of touched on a few of those, unless council has any more questions on 2.4.
I think we're good, Brian. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Brian. Okay, the next item then is the staffing levels. And I'm going to ask Troy and Carol to address that, please. Oops.
Do it. So staffing levels, comprehensive staffing review to be completed. That was completed in 2019 and presented to council. However, it wasn't passed. Not sure if council wants me to bring back that same original report or if we want to do an inside analysis on all the other comparable municipalities, or where we want to go with that.
With that. Organizational review.
This is the I believe the comprehensive wage review
Oh, okay.
that was done, that it was presented to you. It just wasn't passed.
Okay, right. Okay, I got them mixed up. I guess the decision is do we bring that one back, or do you want it updated internally? Councillor Booth?
Well, I know we did discuss the organizational review, and I don't know if we actually looked at a final draft. And now with the changes with the arena and staffing and Brian taking over and that, I'd like that to come back to us so that we can look at that and lay that to rest and get the organizational chart done and finished.
Updated.
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 And I think we were on the right path. And then there was some large staff changes over the summer that allowed that now to all fall in place. So we should probably officially approve that. And whether we can bring that back at the next council meeting or something and review it and pass it, that would be good to just get that off the table.
I agree.
Carol's asked there about whether it should be a current compensation review. And I think if we can do that internally, there's been a lot of changes, and that's, I mean, obviously we're a year past that and more. So it would make sense if we can do that internally. I don't want to go outside and pay somebody to do that, but if it can be done, I'd like to see current 2021 comparisons.
I believe I started to do one in the end of 2020, but I can get those, all those updated to 2021 amounts. So I can do that and bring that back to council then at some meeting, maybe not next meeting, but shortly. 3.2, the succession plan, that was,
Oh, just a sec.
sorry.
Counselor Phillip has a question for
Okay.
you or a comment.
I just, I support both of those ideas, both Counselor Gibson or Deputy Mayor Gibson and Counselor Booth. I think both of those things we can move ahead with right away. That'll just clean that right up. Thank you.
We do have, actually, the organizational chart, we do have it updated with all the changes that were made this summer. So we will bring it back to council at the next meeting.
Yeah, because I think council needs to approve it. With the changes that didn't come forward for officially being approved by council. So.
Yeah, I think the big change was the Parks and Recreation. It was already under Brian, but we still had a manager.
Okay.
So we'll bring that forward to the next meeting. Is the motion needed for that to come back to the next meeting?
Yes, please.
Okay.
So the motion would be to bring back the organizational chart for the next council meeting. And then further that,
Motion then.
oh, sorry.
No, it's okay. Go ahead. Since
The other
brought
thing
it
I
up,
was
I'll
going to
make that
say, if you
motion.
want,
So we do it first, we do a separate meeting for the organizational chart to come back next meeting.
yes. And then if you want a separate motion that staff obtain the 2021 comparisons for the compensation, then we can do that separately.
Okay. Could I have a motion then that we bring the organizational chart to council at the next meeting?
I'll make
by
that
Carol.
motion.
Moved by Counselor Booth, second by Counselor Phillip. All in favor? Carried. Now, the next motion is to have Carol, the treasurer, deputy CAO, HR, work on internally work on what do you want to call it? Updating the compensation review, and that she'll bring that back shortly to council when she completes it. So it'll actually be here before 2022's budget meetings. Okay, could I have a mover for that?
I'll make that motion.
And second, Counselor Hogg. So moved by Deputy Mayor Gibson, second by Counselor Hogg. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried.
On to 3.2 succession planning. That was brought to council in closed due to personnel and approved. That's a living document. We have to change that constantly as staff change. So we do have a plan in place and we do have it updated. So I don't know if council wishes to see that again or if that's something that's going to change all the time.
I think it would be good for council to see it, especially with us going into the final year. At some point when you can bring that.
Okay. The recruitment and retention strategy in place. I believe a lot of that was the succession planning and making sure that people that were put into a position that they would be going up to, got the proper training, got the cross training, got everything. So that's something that we do on a daily basis. If somebody has been recognized as a candidate to fill a position, we're making sure that they're getting all the training and getting the mentorship from the person in that position now. So that's definitely going on as an ongoing basis also. And that's it for me, unless anybody has questions.
Any questions? Nope.
I was going to suggest, Madam Mayor, that you have a motion to ask Carol to bring back the succession plan, sorry.
So call for a motion that Carol brings to council in the closed session, the report on succession planning. Have a mover, please. Councillor Philp, second. Councillor Hogg, all in favor? Carried.
Thank you. Thanks, Carol. The next item then is the fiscal sustainability, and for the most part, we're going to ask Troy to take over.
4.1 is asset management plan. I've been working a long time with a company, Infrastructure Solutions, and our asset management plan is completed. I don't have it in my hands. It'll be a draft document that I'll bring forth to council for their approval. But yeah, it's like I said, it has everything within our township facilities, buildings, all public works, roads, bridges, streetlights. But I did get word that is completed, and I'll be getting a draft document to bring forth to council, hopefully within the next month, and we can go from there. There will be extensive amount of training for senior management to go on the software, and it will just be ongoing working software. So so 4.1 right up to the status, it's all done, completed, just have to bring it to council. And 4.2, enhanced staff capability to navigate. Again, that talks about grants and opportunities. And, as we mentioned a couple times, I have every Monday morning, I get grant funding opportunities that I send out to all department heads. So that's a weekly thing for staff. So we're constantly looking, and that's why today is so important for us to see where we can go forward with these opportunities. So I don't know if I'm all over the map, Pat, but I could be. I get talking. So any questions on anything that I just mentioned?
I think it's important to note, Troy, too, when we apply for funding, one of the things we get asked for is our asset management plan. So having a current plan is in support of our grant applications.
To Troy, then the asset management plan, is that going to then tie into our budgets? Are we looking at equipment and things like that are going to be on a replacement basis type thing, so that we're not, getting surprise requests for a new pumper or a new truck or something like that we're planning for it? Is that the
Yes.
whole idea?
That is the idea, and it
Okay.
will tie in very nicely with that. So it's all coming down at, pretty good time too.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, 4.3, Troy.
4.3, acceptable financial measures, initiatives, internal staff committee, then CAO level to look at shared service opportunities. Shared services comes up quite a bit in many meetings, and I think it's a good time to let this council know how much we do shared services with our neighbors, right through HR, IT, grants, public works. we're in a pretty unique area in Northumberland County where all municipalities really do work closely together in a lot of areas. So that is ongoing, and right up to this week, I'm sitting there in some meetings and talking about shared services opportunities. So I just really want council to know that that's an ongoing thing, and it will always be. So discussions for proposed shared services. Again, as mentioned, it's an ongoing thing. We do partake in many opportunities that are out there available with our neighbors. Northumberland County sort of being the leader, and we hop in with them in many opportunities that we can. So any other questions or any questions on that?
Okay, we'll move
Go ahead.
on then to, oh, sorry, can't hear.
There, you can go ahead. I'll be quiet.
Oh, we'll move on to section 4.4, the user fee study, and I'll ask Jen Steen to update us on that, please.
Thank you. So a user fee study was completed in-house by staff and brought to council at the October 1st, 2020 meeting. So that has been completed. With COVID, it hasn't been, we haven't changed or updated our fee study in regards to rentals of community centers yet. That will be coming back to council at the next council meeting. COVID again put some bumps in the road for that, and council, it has come to council twice, and council's direction to staff was to get input from the Rec and Culture Advisory Committee. At the last meeting of the Rec and Culture Advisory Committee, it did go to them, and I have received their feedback, and we'll be bringing that to council. Thank you.
Thanks, Jen. Any questions of Jen?
Seeing none.
Okay, then item 4.5 is the building permit fee study, and I'll ask Daryl if he could speak to that, please.
Okay, thanks, Pat. Good morning, Mayor Latford and council and staff. Building permit fee study was last done in 2016. Prior to that, it was 2005. Going forward, I did make a goal, or made a goal of trying to have it completed every 5 years, which would put us this year of 2021. It isn't mandated unless I believe the ministry asks you to change the fees. But it is something we were trying to keep updated. With COVID and with the prior consultant that did it, he retired. We have not begun an update yet to date. We do continue to investigate it with other of our OBOA chapter members in Northumberland County, other municipalities. Last time the consultant did give us a reduced price because we had 3 or 4 different municipalities join and do it at the same time. So yesterday was our first in-house OBOA chapter meeting. And it was brought up that other municipalities are continuing to look into it. So we will continue to look into that as well. And we're, I think everybody's hopeful to have this done in 2022.
Any questions of Daryl?
Counselor Phillips.
Yes, through Mayor Latchford. So is this not due this year though, Daryl? It's not due till 2/22, is that right?
It was a goal, so to speak, to have it done this year, Mike, but with COVID and trying to find consultants during this time, I don't believe it will get done this year. It's not mandated by the ministry, by all means, through the Building Code Act to do these every year or every 5 years. It was just it was a goal going forward to try to have it done in every 5 years.
Okay, and my follow-up would be, is this another example of a shared process so that you will be working in concert with other municipalities, or is this a standalone?
No, this is something that we do try to share the process. Each municipality is standalone as far as how they, how the building permit fee study would come out. We definitely don't have the same costs as other municipalities in our bylaw, but we try to have them completed around the same time, so with the same consultant, so that does keep the cost for each department down to have the study completed.
Any further questions? Sherry? Oh, you just moved your hand. Okay. Oh, okay. Thanks, Daryl.
Thank you.
So that is an overview of the various prior priorities that council had selected. So now we need to decide, where council wants to go from here. Are there any new items that council wants to consider? I would suggest strongly that if council makes significant change to your strategic plan, that you should allow at least 30 days to receive public input before making a final decision. And I just want to mention that I think council and staff need to be commended on their achievements. You had quite an ambitious strategic plan and you've got through the majority of it. So congratulations to all of you.
Thank you, Pat. I just can add, really appreciate that coming from you with all your experience. Sometimes we think we've accomplished and other times we think we haven't. So that's good to hear from you. For staff and council. You've been here a short time, so to be able to credit staff is great. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
I don't know where I'm supposed to be looking.
So now where does council want to go from here?
Councillor Phillip has a comment first.
I would just, I'm not sure if this is the soapbox I climb on at this point, but, and I'd like to speak for myself and certainly Councillor Booth and that, and all of staff, all of council really, in that one of our future directions, and I just want to make sure it's embedded already, is the new water system for the town. Is that, does that need to be noted separately, or does that need to be considered a change, or is that all part and parcel? Pat, that's a question to you.
Yes, so it was not mentioned previously, so I think it is a good idea for you to include it. When you say new water system, are you talking like the new well? Are you talking the actual distribution system? Are you talking about expansion? What's your thoughts on that?
Okay, please help me, Greg, should I forget anything, but basically it is a new well. Our current well does not fit the bill anymore. We need to put a new well in, and it is going to be a cost that that will be significant. Although Pat, I know that you have applied for a grant and we're hopeful under that green grant structure that we're successful, but if not, it will be a considerable cost to the township. And although that cost will be deferred through the users, I would like to see that somewhere in the strategic plan going forward. And I would defer to you to how that should be done.
Yes, so we can add that. Sorry.
Under goals,
Yes, so that would be our new goal.
My recommendation,
We've had some discussion around the table about the need for a new administrative township office. And I wonder, it's certainly not something that we're going to tackle within the timelines for this strategic plan, but if we get it in for future consideration, it may be then something that future councils can pick up and staff have their eyes open for, any opportunities for funding for grants.
thanks. I was going to add that one as well. And in my opinion, I think a new administration building needs to become more centralized in the township. And I think that should be a future goal. I find that there's not enough information, input from residents from central to north in the township. And I think it would be better. And I think the admin building would be more open to our public if it was more centralized. And we did look at that, and we looked at a piece of ground there. So I would hope, and maybe I can make that motion. If is there a need for a motion, I can make it, but I think it will serve the public, the entire public better of this township if it's more centrally located. Or do I need a motion for that?
I was going
Pat,
to,
or just put it under goals?
I was going to suggest we'll list all the goals and then get a resolution to add them to your list.
Okay.
But I will include not only looking at a new admin building, but central location.
Councillor Phillip.
I would entertain a lot further discussion on that one. I just feel that the proximity to the 401 is important. I feel that the proximity to the greatest number of residents is important. So I would certainly be open to discussion, but I'm not sure I would be supportive of moving the township office to a more geographically central location. I think you have to look at population, communication, transportation, infrastructure, where the building is going on in the township. All of those things have to be considered. That would be my comment.
My comment to that would be, if it's around the Centerton area, as we looked, it's only 8 to 10 minutes to the 401. And it's not basically for the 401, it's for the people and the residents in the township. And it is a struggle, because former Almwick has lost a lot of connection, because we had the odd council meeting there, but it wasn't a place where they could just come in, and their routes are 45 highway, not down the County Road 22 or 23, whatever it is, 23. So I think it's worth looking at. I don't know whether it's important that it, everything be in one place in the township. I think to grow, and it needs to be more central, but that'll be discussions and depend on costs and everything else. That's just my opinion. Anyone? Hopefully that grant's successful. If that grant's successful and we can improve those boat launches, we spend a lot of money on Wicklow, and we do that every few years. So I feel that's already budgeted, and we do all the work that needs to be done on it often. I know that Councillor Booth was talking about new signage, but I think that can be budget. I'm just concerned. Hopefully we get the 500,000 for that grant, and the Recreation Culture Parks Committee has a good look at those boat launches, because parking's required and a few other things. And there's actually a lot of traffic on Rice Lake from all year round. So just, I'd like to get boat launches into it.
I think that's already, correct me if I'm wrong, that's already in our current strategic plan is boat launches, and action has already started on all of that. So I don't know if that would be a new goal. We're already,
Started?
It's already started with all of that. So
So maybe we could highlight it. Well, I've been working on it since I got here in 2010 with you, and we haven't got anywhere because of finances. So if this grant's successful, 500,000 will go quite a ways.
And maybe at this time, Mayor Latchford, Brian could just give you an idea of what Jen and Brian and I met this week to discuss the actual grant application and some of the items that we were going to bring forward. So Brian, if you wouldn't mind, please.
Yes, Mayor Latchford and members of council. Yes, that grant application, part of the stuff that goes into the grant application is actually, estimates for these launches and stuff. So I'm currently looking, getting pricing for that. And some of the launches like the Sandy Bay one, the Wicklow one I know has a lot of parking in that, but the Wicklow one, or sorry, the Sandy Bay one, for example, down on Rice Lake, that has lots of space down there for a boat launch and parking and that. So part of the grant application we'll be putting in is, better parking, a washroom, possibly a washroom facility, that's maybe be a portable toilet, but it could be in, in a smaller concrete pad building just for aesthetics to make it look better. The docking as well. So we're looking at all these places. I know in the application, Pat has said before, I think they're looking to be consistent on what we're doing at each location. But in some cases, like the ones down at Merrill Road and the one at Coils Point or Curtis Point down there at the end, some of those are limited on what can happen. Like the launches can be fixed and approaches and possibly a dock, but parking is very limited and there's not much room for expansion on parking. Most of the parking is along the road allowance, and I know sometimes that can be an issue for emergency services or emergency vehicles getting there. But so we're going to try to address the application estimates specifically to each boat launch and try to get the most we can and try to use all the funds that we can access, which is the $500,000 possibly to get to upgrade all these. So that's what we'll be putting in our application. I don't know if there's any more questions from council on that or.
I have a comment. Ingham Road, we own land there.
Okay.
Between the Rack Island parking and the neighbor. And we own a fair sized chunk of land there. And if we could get parking, Troy and I have worked on that for a long time as well. And if we could get parking in there for trucks and trailers, angle them, to keep them off the road. It would save a lot of congestion on that road as well, because it's used a lot. And then we get complaints from the Rack Island compound, the people there that own cottages on Rack Island, that people are, fishing off their boats and parking in front of their entrance. So we could tidy that up a little bit too. I hope you're looking at that one. Saves me getting phone calls and complaints. Go ahead.
Yes, through you, Mayor Latchford. Yes, that one there, that one down Ingham Road. I know what you're talking about there about the parking. And we were actually down there a few months ago and actually fixed up the launch a little bit. It was washed pretty bad and used some recycled asphalt and packed it all down. So we did get feedback, and staff did a great job fixing that. And parking is an issue down there. So part of the application, again, back to the estimates, the estimate that we're going to give in the application is we're going to take pictures of the signage of each launch, as well as pictures of the current state of these boat launches. So, I've already took a few pictures of some of the stone or lack of concrete in the water and the ramps. So we'll have pictures of, why it's deteriorating or what it looks like, the parking situation, as much stuff that we show them why we need this funding and why it is so important to the municipality to get this grant money. So there will be pictures of all the deficiencies at all these places, not just stating the physical being the launches, but the parking, lack of parking, and stuff like that.
Thanks, Brian. Just keep in mind, Ingham has a lack of road, doesn't go straight into the water.
Sorry,
It curves. We own straight right into the water there, and there's quite a drop, and there's a big tree there that blocks what could be done.
I caught some of that. I think I got most of what you're trying to say there, Mayor. Yes.
Jump in, and I will say Brian has done a lot of work on it. He does know all the launches. And I think that it's important that we be realistic and keep in mind that these launches have been around here for many, many, many years, when boating was just the odd boat go into these launches. And now it seems like every household or every other household has a boat and wants to launch it. So, it is a challenge to accommodate all of these boaters and their parking and stuff. But Brian has a really good plan together. And hopefully this funding will go through, and we can make some serious improvements.
Councillor Philip?
Thank you, and through Mayor Latchford. Brian, if, I don't know how big a number this is. I know it's $500,000, but how far it will go. But one of the things that I've thought about for some time, certainly, please correct me if I'm wrong, but I suspect that Wicklow Beach Boat Launch is the heaviest used boat launch in the township. And with that, it might be a good idea to throw a permanent pad down, as you suggested, for some of the other locations, and put a permanent washroom in there. And on the backside, you could employ a couple of our local summer students on a concession stand there, and I am sure that they would do quite well and add to the township's coffers. That is never not used, and summer months are very, very busy with the tourism piece. So I don't know whether that is in your plan, or whether you would have enough money to even consider something like that, but certainly it might be part of a bigger picture for development along the waterfront of Lake Ontario.
I'll jump in if you don't mind, Brian. And,
Yep.
and again, but it's all part of that whole parks master plan and having an idea of our waterfront. And we have had discussions on, waterfront upgrades and new amenities and stuff. So that's all part of this strategic plan. And so Now that we have maybe a bit clearer direction of where to go, maybe those funding opportunities now will come across my desk and we can go forward on it. And that's the whole point of today, is so we have a better direction. And I honestly feel we do. So something like the ideas that you just mentioned may come true. So thank you.
Councillor Gibson or Deputy Mayor
That's okay.
Gibson, sure, sorry.
You can call me whatever you want. Brian, I know you've probably thought about this in terms of getting that information in, but I think it would be significant if we could offer at least one accessible dock throughout the township. I don't believe we do have one, and I know there is one in Hamilton Township that is, I think prior to this past year has been quite heavily used.
Can I go? Yes, Deputy Mayor Gibson, as a senior management team, we did discuss accessibility as well, and doing as much as we can with this funding. And again, having a minimum of one at the south and one at the north as well. I think the Sandy Bay one and the Ingham one are the larger ones for areas, for the busier ones. So making it accessible is definitely a priority for us. And again, back to Councillor Phillips' questions regarding the Wicklow one and that. I think all of these we want to, hopefully we are successful and get this grant money. And again, our motto is our lake to lake. And if we can upgrade these facilities, we really like to promote them more. They are using now, but I think by doing these upgrades, it would definitely make it more accessible for our residents as well as our tourism as well. So hopefully we get it and we can promote it even more than what we're doing now.
I have a question for Carol. Can park levy monies, like park reserves, be used at boat launches or close to and provide?
If it's within a park of ours, then we could use park reserves. But if it's not classified as one of our parks, it's not really parkland.
But if it's land that's like the boat launch goes into the lake and there's land right there, township land, it doesn't really have a definition. So we would have to define it as parkland.
Define it as a park, and
that way we could use reserve funding.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that might be an option too, depending on how much grant money comes through with that. Thanks. It looks like finished at this point until we all get home and think of something else.
Of course.
In the middle of the night, which we might bring back.
So I believe you wanted to add 2 items, and one was the water system and the other was a new admin building and look at the location. I won't put
Yes.
specifically what location, but was there anything else that council wanted us to bring forward? Oh, the boat launches, even though it's included already, did you, like, it's under the Parks Master Plan, decision on waterfront amenities and facilities. So I believe it's already been addressed, but I just need direction from council if you want it listed again or what you would like.
I think if it's already there and we've applied for funding, so see how that turns out and hopefully for the best. Councillor Booth has a comment.
I was just wondering if maybe in the future, Brian, you could maybe present to council, some of the pictures of the boat launches and things like that. These are all nice ideas and everybody's talking about, but to be realistic, and I've been involved in this before in my previous job, $500,000 does not even get you a bathroom by the waterfront. So, let's be realistic. I'd like it to be a planned out thing like Brian's talking about, and let's, put our money where we're going to get the biggest bang for our buck. But if Brian could present us with some pictures and things like that, I know it's all dependent on the grant, and maybe we're talking, the side of our mouth that we don't get anything, and then it's going to be, well, we're going back to the basics of just keeping it there. But it's nice to look at it to see what we think we can spend our money on.
Thank you. These will probably be on the road tour as well. Are they, Brian?
Yes, that was my plan. And if I can just clarify, Councilor Bruce, sorry, maybe I misinterpreted, or you misinterpreted how I meant the bathrooms. I just meant keeping a portable toilet, but I've been around them before where we just had like a small pad with a little fenced in compound to have the toilet in, just to make it more, it wasn't a full-fledged bathroom with a holding tank and that. I don't mean to scare you with that. It was just more adding to what we have now. Sorry if I was.
Sorry, Mayor. I just have a question for Pat. We already have on page 1 the new admin building, so it's already on our strategic plan.
Okay.
So I don't know if is that still a new goal, but it's already there.
If it's already
1.2.
there, then it's existing. Yep.
Yep. Thanks.
But it's there, but it's to be, I think we need the goal to look at it in a more centralized location, even though Mike doesn't agree with me. But I think that the location of it should, or take out the location of where it will be on the original goal. I think we need to be much fairer to the residents of Alnwick-Haldeman, location wise.
But since it's already in our strategic plan, we have direction. So now staff will provide reports and do studies and whatever. So we'll bring forth some information for council for a decision then. But right now, really, we just wanted direction of what we can do. And this is one that, we're going to start bringing some information of a new admin building.
So can we make a motion that we remove, that it be in Grafton? That the goal would be just to build a new admin building, location to be determined, which could be anywhere.
I read that more to be in line with, are we building a new arena and how are we building it? And I think what the goal was with the administrative building is that it's separate and apart from the arena. And it may indeed, if we decide to build a new arena and that can be encompassed together, those amenities all together, the administrative office and library and everything else. But I think it needs to be a separate goal because it's not something we want to get lost in embedded in another objective, in my opinion. And the location is a big, I think that is something that needs to have public consultation in regard to the location. And obviously, I think the arena is where the arena is going to be rebuilt if that's the case.
Well, I don't have an issue if the arena gets improved or rebuilt, but I see the admin building being totally separate. And I wouldn't want people just to think automatically because of that Parks Master Study. That the admin building has to be there on that property. So that's what I'm saying. So I would just, my opinion would be just to remove that line, that the admin building would be there, I'm fine with that. And just put new admin building in what this former plan was, because if I recall, we had quite a discussion at the time about what the results were in this Parks Master Plan.
The new admin building needs its own objective. We need a new admin building. If it's the decision that it goes with in another building, whether it's with the arena or something else we're building, that's left to be decided. But I don't want it to get buried into, it's just part of the recreation and culture, because I think it's deserving of its own, it's significant.
Yes, it's really significant. And anyways, that's the way I feel about it. I would like it removed. The idea of it being in Grafton, written that it should be in Grafton, removed. It could very well end up in Grafton. It says, yeah, if you look at the Parks Master Plan, they wanted a multi-purpose building built and the administration building there, and you know, well,
Right.
we passed it or we accepted it.
It
We
doesn't
didn't-
really
we did-
say that, though. It just says renovate or build new with admin. I agree with Sherry. If we want to just put a new goal that we investigate into it, to be realistic, this council's not going to be dealing with a new building. We're already
No.
talking about the public works right now and the well and things like that. I can't see this council getting involved in the public works. Where it goes, you know,
Admin.
allow staff to research it and everything, and in the future they can present ideas and that. To be realistic, I think we're going to be here for years, because with the other stuff that we have, money that we've got to pay for, I really believe that's going to be last on the list. So I don't want to spend too much time on it, but I mean, you know, to talk about the location or whatever, to me, that doesn't imply it. It just says, are we going to renovate it? Are we going to, the idea was, would it be, if we did do an arena, would we put the admin center with it or whatever? So just a separate one to say, I don't want location in there at all. If you wanted to make a separate motion that just said, let staff investigate it, and Troy can have, you know, some reports given back to us to say, this is what the cost would be, and these are some potential sites that there are in the town that wouldn't cost us and things like that, then that's fine. But I don't think we're going to get too involved in it.
But so I'll just be quiet, but I'm not, I just think things need spread out around a little more. Few other things too. So what are we doing with it? Leaving it as it is, or standing it on its own? I guess that's the question.
I'd like to see it standing on its own, because then it's clearly identified for the next strategic plan as an item that needs to be discussed and moved forward.
Okay, so that means it would be a change from the Parks Master Plan recommendation to it being a standalone decision of in the future.
Indeed, it happens that the decision is made in the future that a new arena is built that includes the administrative office, then that will be in future control.
Right. Okay. I'm happy with that. Is everybody happy with that? It's not saying, it's not identifying any place for the new admin building. It's going to depend on the future, on
whatever future councils decide. For that, Pat, or do we?
So, yeah, so what I would suggest is that council establish two new goals. One would be to investigate a new administration building, not indicating where it would be located or anything. And the other is for water system
Water.
upgrades.
Have that motion written?
So it would be that council would add two new goals. One would be investigate a new administration building, and two would be water system upgrades.
It's not really an upgrade. It's a health consideration. I don't know if you might want to review the language there. We're not really improving the volume of water or anything like that. We're safeguarding the water supply in our township.
Okay.
I don't want people to think we're doing,
Safeguarding the water supply.
yeah,
for,
we're really not, we're not, making it bigger or better.
No.
We're making it safer.
Right.
For Grafton water system.
Yeah.
Are you satisfied with that? Water,
Safety, water
Water.
security, water ensuring safe drinking water in our community is what we're doing. That's what we're doing.
yeah. What's it called? Grafton water.
Yeah,
Grafton communal water system. For the Grafton communal water system.
ensuring safe drinking water for the Grafton communal water system is probably what would work.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Moved by Councillor Philp, second by Deputy Mayor Gibson. All in favor? Carried. So that ends our time with the strategic plan.
So what I'll do is I'll bring forward a report for council, including the new goals. And then I would suggest that you allow a certain amount of time for public input, and then adopt your upgraded, or sorry, not upgraded, your new goals for your strategic plan at a future meeting.
Okay, so when you bring that forward, that'll be at the next meeting.
Hopefully I'll have it ready for the next meeting for you. Yes.
And then we give the public enough time to,
provide comment.
okay.
Okay.
So then we'll have to figure out how to get all that information out for them to provide comments.
Yes.
Okay, we'll do that at that time. Thank you very much,
Thank you.
everyone and staff. Good reports. I think we've got right down to future direction. Council, anyone have any comments you want to make? Before, okay, so I'm going to go into the confirming bylaw.
Can I just make a comment?
Yes, Deputy Mayor Gibb.
So I don't want to leave on a negative note, because I think I started the meeting on somewhat of a negative note, thinking that we hadn't done a lot. And quite honestly, when I did review our strategic plan, I knew actually, I'm not going to say we, the all-encompassing we, mostly staff had accomplished a lot on our behalf. But I would like to say that I think there are still some really tough decisions ahead of us. And whether or not we make them in the coming year or we leave them for the future council, I think we just want to make sure that we, keep that transparency and allow for public input into what we're doing.
Seeing none,
I'm going to call for the confirming bylaw. Be it resolved that bylaw number 104-2021, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the strategic planning session held on Thursday, September 16th, 2021, be read and deemed passed the 16th day of November or September. I don't know where that came from. 2021. Could I have a mover, please? Moved by Deputy Mayor Gibson, second by Councillor Hogg. All in favor? Carried. And motion to adjourn at 11:31. I have a mover. Councillor Phillips, second. Councillor Booth, all in favor? Carried. So we're back in an hour for our regular council meeting. Thanks, everyone. It was a good meeting.
Thank you.
It was a very good meeting.